Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversations. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good morning to you. It is the 20th day of January. Enero, if you speak Espanol. It's the 20th day, everyone. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. And I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. And as I used to say, first time I'm saying it in 2022, and I mean it. Well, yeah, I do. That I wouldn't rather be anywhere else in the world, except maybe Fiji, than right here. So, with you guys, we are fulfilling one of the greatest promises. And that's a fact that, the one that says that we're two or more of us with a like-mindedness, a spirit of giving and a heart that is true. When we come together, there's no stopping us, right? Wonderful things will happen. And that's what's going to happen again today because you're here. So thank you for that. That's the bell of purpose. In case you have never been here before, it's not some clever gimmick. It's not a prop. It's actually an opportunity. It really is. It's an opportunity because just like when you hear the bell ring, just like the bell has a ring to it, so does the truth. And I know we're busy. We're doing 1,000,001 things at any given time, just the way things are in today's world. But when you hear the bell, I don't want you to miss this truth that's out there. It could be the very thing you've been looking for all your life. So I want you to back the car up. Consider taking some of it with you. Can I get an amen? Alrighty then. Also, I'm going to have to get our guest in here. Lucy is up in the microwave. My coffee. Girl, I'm sorry. I'll be up to get you in a minute. She'll sue you in a minute. Don't get it twisted. I'll go get her in just a second. So anyway, great day 1 year ago today here in the United States anyway. Our President Biden, was inaugurated. So that was a year ago today. A lot's happened. But we're not going to get into all that today. What we are going to get into is, the other day we had Mark Haddis on and Carl Magellan from Brazil. Carl deals with several different, I hate saying it, mental illness issues. But Why is that? See, that's what we were talking about. Removing stigma. It's I don't care what all that stuff. You know what? Because I've dealt with it, depression, and I had all those suicidal attempts back in the day, and decades of no self-esteem, not low, but no, zip, zilch, zero. Seriously, you guys know I say all the time, for 26 years, I brushed my teeth, washed my face, shaved my face and head in the shower because I did not want to look in the mirror. I did not. I didn't look in windows as I passed. No reflective surfaces. There were no pictures out of me except they like this. And I had no social media profile pics, just a little silhouette guy. I couldn't do it. I didn't even know I was doing it. But anyway, wait, look at that. My coffee has been brought to me. Thank you. I'll leave you a tip on the counter. Thank you so much. Good morning, honey. So here she is, you guys. Welcome to the show. This is my girl, my sidekick, my version of Ed McMahon, Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Delicious. I'm not even going to say I drink coffee for the taste. I don't. I do it for the medicinal. I need that, right? So listen, we've all dealt with that. And here's the deal. During the holidays, there's all these specials and all these things about how to deal with the, depression and all these dark clouds over your life during the holidays. Everybody, but you know what? Just like the bell ringers out there, I'm always thinking, well, what about February? You're not out here and there's still hungry people, right? So I wanted to get it outside of the, time when it's appropriate to talk about it. Because the time when it's appropriate to talk about it is whenever we need to talk about it. Can I get an amen? So we're going to talk about that today. Because guess what? You saw in the promo, hopefully. If not, here's what's going on. There is an app now that can help you, lead you to some ways to help evaporate the dark clouds that follow you around. Seriously, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And it's brilliant because the brainchild of this app is brilliant. And I'm going to get into that. But before we do, I want to, let's take a look. In case somebody's been living underneath a rock, right? Or is in some kind of deep denial, which I was for decades, and just doesn't, maybe you don't even know why you feel the way you feel. Maybe you have no idea. Maybe you're holding on to things that you don't need to. Anyway, whatever it is, if you are not living like, you're in the bright sunshine of purpose every day, at least some part of the day. I mean, shit happens, right? But if you're not, then we want to get that changed, and with ASAP. So take a look at this little brief cartoony. This is what we're going to talk about today. Take a look. I feel better already. I'm sick of all these drugs. I want to see if there's something better out there. Hey, what happened to your dark cloud? I don't have it anymore. Because I'm happy.
Get moving with Twilio Engage, built for omnichannel.
Okay, got rid of that. So, did you see that? The dark clouds disappeared. That app, and we're going to get deeper into it with the brainchild, Dr. Alan Barnard. He's here, and I'm going to get him in here so we can get started. Hey, now's a great time. Share this broadcast out, seriously. If there's somebody on your mind, somebody in your family, a friend, whomever, and something seems a little off. They just haven't been themselves lately. You might want to share this broadcast with them. Seriously. You never know who you're helping. So without further ado, you guys, your first time here. So do what we do at Bathrobe Moments. Put your hearts not only on the screen to welcome our guest, but put your heart into this conversation. And let's change the world one conversation at a time. Here he comes, Dr. Alan. Hi, Dr. Alan. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for the invitation, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all your listeners and viewers wherever they are in the world.
Absolutely. Now, where are you?
I'm in Las Vegas at the moment. I moved to the USA in September 2020. I grew up in South Africa.
You grew up in South Africa and you moved to Vegas?
Yes.
Out of all the places we have here, can we ask, why did you choose Vegas?
It's kind of a strange decision. It's I never expected I would be based here. I tried out different cities. I'm very lucky with my job. I run a research lab that I can be based anywhere. But then a friend of mine invited me to come and stay with him for a month or two here in Las Vegas, and just fell in love with the place. It's really easy to live. There's so many flights in and out. You just a few minutes away from the top restaurants and shows in the world. There's a big startup community, lots of interesting people here. I just fell in love with the place and ended up meeting the woman of my dreams, and got married last year. And that's how
Vegas?
In Vegas, yes.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So wait, don't tell me you went to the little what is it? The little pink wedding?
We did the whole Las Vegas thing. Yes, we woke up one morning, and it's kind of one of those things. I don't know if any of your listeners or viewers has had that moment when you realize you want to spend the rest of your life with somebody. You want the rest of your life to start immediately.
Yeah. And
that's what happened.
You didn't meet her the night before, did you?
We woke up one Saturday morning and looked at each other and said, you know what? Both of us had previously gotten divorced, and we probably both said never again, but we just looked at each other and said we want to spend the rest of our life with each other. And we ended up going off to the wedding chapel, first getting a wedding license, going to the wedding chapel, and we got married. And it's been fantastic ever since.
So let me just ask, because I've seen it in the movie. So after when they were like, do you take, what'd you say your name was again?
It wasn't quite as bad as that. We had met in November, so by that time we had known each other for about 9 months. We had already moved in together for a couple of months.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like you were out at the roulette table.
No. I don't drink. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. So I don't have that excuse of just having that moment of and then off to the wedding. No, it was a bit more deliberate than that.
That's so funny. So you mentioned that you are the founder and CEO of a research lab company.
Yes.
Gold Rat.
Yes.
Research labs. What do they do? And so tell us, I've never met anybody that owns and runs a research lab. So I picture, tell me if I'm even close. I picture like this big old building with all this glass and chrome and escalators and everybody walking around in like lab coats and stuff, and they all have like dark like glasses like you. Yeah. And that's pretty much, and clipboards.
Not really, no. It's
our
research lab is focused on studying why good people make and often repeat bad decisions, both in their personal lives but also in business. And based on that research, we've developed a number of decision support methods and also apps. And that's the one that you did the introduction of, the Harmony Decision Maker app. We develop a range of decision support apps, and each of these apps have just been designed to help us overcome some fundamental decision mistakes that we make and often repeat in our life.
Okay, so the Harmony app, the decision maker, what category would you say your ideal client comes from? So are they, I'm just saying, because we saw dark clouds, and I know what dark clouds used to represent in my journey. And let's just say, not nice, not good. Okay, not good. So let's just keep it real. Who is this ideal client?
Well, I think, as you saw in the little video, what tends to happen is, I grew up in South Africa. I grew up with big dreams, but little resources, and soon what happens is there is an expectation gap that's created, right? We have our dreams is up here, and then our reality is down here. And that gap over time accumulates in our mind, in our subconscious mind, and it results in stress and anxiety. And we don't tolerate stress and anxiety very well. It's awful emotions, as you know, to go through. So what the mind is trying to do is trying to find causes of it. And there's sort of one of two conclusions that most people reach when there's a big gap between their dream that they had for themselves and the people that they care for and reality. The first one is they start looking for someone or something to blame. So something could be, I grew up in an extreme poverty. Maybe I suffered neglect or even abuse. So the mind is looking for a reason to explain this gap, and that could be one thing. I can find someone or something to blame. Right. That's a one thing, but it's not very useful. I mean, it relieves the suffering a little bit if you can find somebody to blame, but it's not very useful. It doesn't change your reality.
True.
It just closes the gap, because essentially you thought, okay, the gap was this big. Most of it is not my fault. Maybe there's a small part, that if I had a bit more willpower or some go, I could close, but the majority is not my fault. That's one consequence. The other consequence is we start lowering our expectations. We start giving up on those big dreams that we had. And both of those things are really devastating for us in the long term. The reality is, if that expectation gap is there, it literally, like the little video, it follows us around wherever we go. We try to reduce the suffering by, doing stuff that occupies our little monkey brain, and that's where the sort of overeating. You see the guy sitting at the couch and he's just stuffing his mind, he's drinking. And why that works and why many of us develop bad habits.
Wait a minute. Wait. Did you just say drinking is a bad habit? Oh, no. Bye-bye. Okay, he's got to go. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Just when it comes to drinking.
We develop these habits to keep ourselves busy, so we're not thinking about, this big expectation gap.
Busy or distracted?
It's distracted. That's a great word. That's a better word. It's being distracted, right? So we're looking for things that will distract us from the suffering. So we develop, whatever it is. Some people are lucky to develop, good habits. They go out and get addicted to sport, or they find somebody to fall in love with and they get addicted to them, and that occupies all of their attention. It makes them forget about this gap. But as you see in the video, this bloody dark cloud doesn't go away. You get temporary relief. That's when the rain stops, but it keeps on coming back.
Okay. I'm going from my own experience, Doc. So let's go back to, let's pretend I'm one of the people watching, because I've been there and I used to do this. Actually, I have a clip pulled up where you were interviewing Dr. Phil. And I remember one time I was in a Motel 6, maybe an hour away from, the upper room, because I was there to take my life. And I would always do that last ditch attempt. Well, let me see. Maybe, it's like when people go to the Bible, I couldn't stand reading the Bible. I just couldn't. But I would try, and I'd go like this. If there's anything that keep me alive, you better make my finger land on it right now. Last chance, right? And so I'd click through, and I saw Dr. Phil. I'm like, say something. Please say something that resonates with me. So what Okay, I was gonna say if the internet dips out and I disappear, you keep talking because they'll still see you.
Sure. You just froze, and that you got stuck in this very surprised face.
Okay, there. If the internet, it's something's going on with it right now. If I dip out, you keep going because they can see you. I just want you to know that.
Sure.
Here's the deal. What about the person, Doc, that is watching, not feeling anything really, and you said, I love this when you said our dreams are here. When you dream, you gotta base it up your current situation, your current realities, or else why dream? So, and I never thought of it like that. You put this here, there is a gap. But what about that person that right now is saying, because they took the word TOO instead of leaving it at the end? Oh, I bet you that app. I wonder if that app could work for me too. Now they wouldn't say that app won't work for me. I'm too far gone. I'm too depressed. I'm too deep in finance and in debt. I'm too whatever. How does the person get over that just to the point where they can download the app? Oh, I rhymed. How do they get over that and then download the app?
Well, I think the first thing is to realize that, many of us are on those situations that at least a few times in our lifetime, we're going to get to that point of absolute hopelessness, right? Where we've blamed ourselves and everything around us. We've started giving up on our dreams, but those dark clouds don't go away. And that's kind of what the video suggests, is that's when we end up in a psychologist's room, right? And not only they find this dark cloud, but they find many more dark clouds, because we have dark clouds in every aspect of our life, right? We have a dream for ourselves in terms of our wealth, our health, our happiness. And then, out of desperation, we get a prescription drug. And it does help a little bit because it sort of tones down the emotion, it relieves the suffering.
Temporary.
But it fades out, and that's where you see the little umbrella just fading out, and then you have to go back and get another prescription.
Get another one.
And I think what the video is showing is that, yes, there are some people where the emotional situation that they're going through is so extreme, they really can benefit from just buying themselves a bit of time by taking something. But the majority of us can get massive benefit by just analyzing ourselves. Why are we feeling like we are feeling? What is this dark cloud? And that was one of my biggest discoveries, is that there really is a silver lining in every dark cloud.
Correct.
Now, you can ask, well, what is the silver lining? It's, if you are interrogating that dark cloud to try and understand, why am I feeling like this? Why is this feeling so bad? And what are my options, right? If you really analyze that and you ask yourself the right questions, you can often find the assumption or belief that causes that gap.
Right.
So rather than challenging the assumption on which my expectation is based, which is, maybe my dream was too high because I thought that I could achieve this and I can't, that's what reality, or I must lower my expectation. I'm challenging the assumptions on which my reality is based. And this is sort of, when we teach this to kids, they force you to explain things in very simple terms. And the way that we explain it to kids to try and help them understand their emotions, because as you mentioned, there's many of us that are going through that thing where your current state of mind is just like starting to feel that hopelessness, like, is life worth living or not? And the way that we explain it to kids is to say that your whole life is governed by a mathematical equation, and then I keep quiet. And the kids go, what is the equation? And then you write on the board, E plus R equal O. And then you let the kids speculate, like, what does that mean? And basically what it means is the E is representing the events that happen to us in our life. And there's only two types of events. There's positive events and negative events, right? If we are lucky in our lifetime, we'll have more positive events than negative events. And sometimes many more positive events than negative. If we are unlucky, we have the opposite. We have more negative events than positive events. And sometimes over the lifetime, we can have more positives than negatives, but maybe in a specific year, And I'm sure your listeners and viewers have had those periods, right? Sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's a month, sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's a bloody decade where it just feels like
we're going into the third year of the pandemic. So
exactly.
I bet there's a great amount of people that can say, yeah, ever since this dark cloud of pandemic.
Yes, you just get hit time after time by another negative event, right? So that's the E part, is the positive and negative events that happen to us. The R part is our response to those events. And that's an important thing. When I realized that as a little kid, is that you can't change your events, but you can always change the response. And your response can also be positive or negative. You can always make things better or worse. So if you think about it, if you have a negative event and you respond negatively to that, you get a double negative, right? And that's when it feels like life is hopeless, right? Where we've had a few disappointments, maybe, we met our soulmate and it didn't work out and we ended up, breaking up or getting a divorce, or we got our dream job and we got fired and we don't think that we'll ever get a job like that. And then we start blaming ourselves or somebody else. That's a double negative, right? Those are awful events to go through. If you get a negative event that happens to you, but you have a positive response to it,
right,
then it can cancel the negative event out, like in mathematics, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So you go through a divorce and you think about it and you say, but was I really this happy? Maybe this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I just got comfortable, because we all have a status quo bias. I got stuck in a relationship that maybe wasn't that empowering. Maybe it was even toxic. This could be the best thing that ever happened.
I'm jumping in. You guys right there, because there's a lot of stuff we talk about all the time here you don't know about because it's your first time here. But that's exactly what I mean when I say to you guys all the time. My life turned completely around once I put it on my hard drive, that no matter what I'm dealing with, always remember, Lauren, it is never about just one thing. It is never about just one thing. So when I'm feeling the shit, I'm swimming through the cesspool, I'm as low as I can be, I automatically say to myself, now I go there, well, you know what? It's not just one thing. This is one thing. What's the other thing? And I immediately start seeking the other part of the equation, so to speak. So what did you say the O is?
So the O is for the outcome. Right?
Outcome.
So we have events.
That's what I wrote down. So I got 1 out of 3.
Events plus response equal outcome. And positive and negative events, positive and negative responses. And the outcome is then as a result of my response. So a negative event and negative response, I get a double negative outcome. Those are the awful moments in my life where I feel life isn't worth living. I'm not good enough. I'm unlovable. It's just a horrible place to be in, right?
Correct.
A negative event with a positive response can cancel out that negative event.
Right.
It doesn't mean that we won't be disappointed when we break up or we lose our job, but it means that we'll have a quick recovery, right? Mm-hmm. It means that we're starting to think about, what can I learn from this event? It happened to me. Why wasn't I prepared? Why was my expectation like this? And I can recover very quickly. If I have a positive thing that happens to me, and here's an interesting situation. You have a positive event that happens to you, right? You meet the girl of your dreams. You get a compliment. You find a job, but you have a negative response to it. It can wipe out the positive, right? Somebody comes to you and say, Lauren, my God, you look amazing at the moment. And you go, what do you want? What do you want from me, right? That's a negative response. It wiped out the positive. And you'll see that when you get into that state of mind, you start distrusting everybody around it. So, your response is always negative.
Okay. So, and we do know, I think it's like 70% of the population cannot accept a compliment.
Right.
Oh, I love your hair. I couldn't do a thing with it. Oh, what a great blouse. This old thing. Right. We just cannot say thank you and then give a compliment back. That is a big, big deal. Listen, when we come back from this brief intermission, we're going to go out and pay a couple bills. I want to get into it with the good doctor here. I want him to walk us through the app and really explain how the process works and shed some light on that. And I also want to talk about how, when you're interviewing people like Sir Richard Branson, I saw that. I saw Dr. Phil. Do any of them ever admit, well, I know the answer, so never mind. I'm not going to say that. I retract that question. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to get into it so that you all can understand what's happening. I want you to get over and take a look at the app. We're also going to go inside the website for the app so you can see just how easy it is for you to get what we're talking about. We'll be back in a moment. Remember, April 28th is the Power of We Symposium #3. We made history 2 years ago in Atlanta with the second one. 6 weeks after we left there, we were summoned to New York City, where the United Nations gave us an award for our work with these inner city kids, which we just love. So the Power of We tickets are on sale now. Get over to Eventbrite and type in Power of We Chicago and come and celebrate and pour into these wonderful youth ambassadors from the hardest hit areas of Chicago. We'll be back in 30 seconds. Just like good Dr. Allen, who's coming back in just a moment, and we're about to show you how to get rid of those dark clouds that could be following you around, which is going to be a choice. Should you choose or not? Just like this was for me. A couple years ago, I decided to get rid of the Diet Coke, get rid of the Red Bull, all the things, the monster drinks that were not serving me. I decided to pick this up, and guess what? Today I get paid to drink it. Wow. See? So it's V8. I love it. I really do. Why? Because it's 100 calories in every can. 60 calories, not 100. What did I cheat on today that I've already... It'll come back to me. Anyway, V8, it has 2 full servings of vegetables. It's easy to find. Just go down the juice aisle at your local grocery store. You'll find it. It's in my grocery store. It's right next to the Kool-Aid boxes. But it's really great. I used to think it was for old people. Wait a minute. Is 59 old? Anyway, I love it. Try it. You may find that you love it, just like I did. V8, get yours today. Now it's official. Okay, welcome back. How are you? How you doing, Dr.
Great, thanks.
Let's watch a little something really quick before we get into the app. Because it's there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of people that may be sitting there going, I don't know what I have. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this would work for me, yada, yada, yada. So I just, let me ask you, Dr. Allen, how many people, let's just say, what's the percentage that you think from the people you've worked with that a lot of their underlying decision-making processes have to do with like things like depression?
Yeah, so it's an important thing to say. Depression is just a consequence, right? It's an emotional state. It's kind of like a red flag going off. When that gap becomes too big, it's a red flag going off. And the depression is what we feel when that red light is going off to say, pay attention, there's something wrong. You need to fix. Right? That's all that the depression is doing. It's a kind of a warning light. The reason why we experience negative emotions is to have a warning.
Okay, that's the
essence of it. And we get that negative impression when we get a negative outcome. And that negative outcome can be from a negative event where we had a negative response, or it can come from a positive event that we had a negative response. A negative response is never good. A positive response can cancel out the negative event, or if we get a positive event happening to us and we have a positive response, we get a double positive. So all the app is trying to do is to help a person go through the thinking of why is my default a negative response? Is there not a better option?
Yeah, why do I always go there? Okay.
Right. And can't I develop a better option that has a big upside if it works for me and a small downside if it doesn't? That's a kind of a hell yes response, right? If you could find an option that says, whatever happened to you, I'm going to respond in a way where if it works, there's a big upside. If it doesn't work, it's a small downside. That's a great response. A really terrible response would be one that has a small upside if it actually works and a huge downside if it doesn't. So all that the app does is it asks us a couple of questions to help us better understand why we are responding, why we're feeling in a certain way, and then help us to develop better options.
Better options. Okay, let's listen to a minute or two of this. And I just want you guys out there, because that's what happened to me. I want to see if any of this still resonates with me. Because I don't think, I'm really happy in my life. I love my work. I love everything about my life. And I just wonder if it still resonates. I check in with this kind of stuff from time to time, just to keep a rein on it. Take a listen and see if anything here resonates with you.
How would you describe depression?
I would describe depression as a shadow or a ghost, because you don't see it. It's not material. It's not something look, you have depression. It's something that hides in you. It's like call it the devil inside me. It sometimes makes you do something that you might don't want to do. At the age of 16, I feel very tired and attempt twice to kill myself, and that brought to stay in a children neuropsychiatry department.
Okay, now right there, that's where I wanted to get to. She's talking about depression. She said she tried to kill herself, and she goes, I was very tired.
Yes.
Right there. I was very tired. She didn't say I was sad, I was getting beaten, I was on the street. She just said, I was very tired. Talk about that. Common things that lead us. So go ahead, doctor.
Well, I think it's one thing that it's probably one of those emotions that everybody can associate with us. Remember, when that gap, the gap between our expectation and our reality gets too big, it causes pain and suffering, right? Emotional pain and suffering. There's a couple of ways to respond to that.
Okay.
The one that we've already covered is you develop some kind of habit that distracts you. But another one is that you want to sleep. You have no energy. Sleeping, falling asleep helps you to get rid of this emotional pain, but it's only temporary. But that's one of the reasons why we are constantly tired. Our mind is trying to protect ourselves from the emotional pain, and as a result, we get very tired and we constantly want to sleep. It's just like a bad habit. It's just a way of protecting us from the pain.
Wow. Okay. So when we were watching the video, we saw the guy, the light bulb came on. And so he's like, you know what? I want to try something different. Right. And he went in. So talk about, because I've gone through this with you on a pre-interview. Talk about how you asked those questions in a different way. Remember how you were explain that to me.
The app is based on a lot of scientific research, right? I did my PhD in this, and first we tried to develop the process. We tried to teach the process to other people, see that it works, made all the refinements. And once that worked, we then put it into an app. The way that the app works, it's got 5 simple steps. And each of these steps have just been designed to help us overcome a bad assumption. So the first step, what the app will ask you is, Lawrence, so tell me, what is this problem that is putting pressure on you to make a change? And you can say that the problem is, I'm unhappy in my career. I'm not happy with my health. I've got an issue with my relationship. It's basically defining what that dark cloud is, giving it a name that's hanging over me, right? It's kind of that expectation gap. And then what the app will ask you is, okay, so tell me why this problem is so bad for you that's causing so much stress and why it's bad for the people that you care about. So you say, well, I've just been diagnosed, I'm overweight. The reason why it's so bad, I've just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and, I can't be the dad for my kids, and that's why it's bad for my family, and they're kind of embarrassed to be seen with me. So then what the app does is it now reflects, it gives you the opportunity to look back at what you've written. So here's the trick. When we are asked the right question, it exposes, it takes our assumptions or beliefs from our subconscious mind and it puts it into the conscious mind. So what the app will do is say, Warren, have a look at what you've written. Is this important enough for you to worry about it? Because that's one of the biggest mistakes. We worry about things that are not important or we can't do anything about.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So that's the first step in the app. It's make sure that you're dealing with a really important problem. And then it will take you to the next step to say, okay, let's see what's the options of how to resolve this.
Because the app, it seems to me like it keeps jumping in with the voice of reason.
Right.
Because stinking thinking will keep dragging you down that rabbit hole. You're all alone. There's no hope. There's this and the other. So this thing comes in, this voice of reason comes in through the app, asking those questions that kind of throw a rope down. I'm going to tell you what I saw. Remember that movie with Jodie Foster, Silence of the Lambs?
Yes.
Remember when she was down in the hole and the dog was down, the dog was, she was trying to get the dog, so she could get it down there. It was kind of like, when Jodie Foster came in, what she did was she saw her, she had the gun, she knew the guy was still up there. She didn't just go down and say, here, grab my hand, desperate girl. Because then the desperate people do desperate things, will pull her in. And so that's what used to happen to me, Dr. Barnard, when I would ask people that weren't, some of them were more sick than me.
Yes.
What if they couldn't help me, right? So what Jodie Foster did was go and she went and got something and she did it so she could be away from the hole. Because that way, if she's leaning into it, she's halfway in herself. Now we're both in there. Who can help? Nobody. So what I love about this app, it's like something it's not able to fall in the hole with me. And it's going to give me everything I need.
It sort of helps you to stand back a little bit.
Right.
And almost be a third person. And I'm sure all your listeners and viewers have had that experiences. Here's a question for them. Why is it so much easier for us to find what's the issue in somebody else's life or in somebody else's relationship than our own? Because we're just standing, on the outside, we're looking in, and it's much easier to be objective. So the app allows us to do that with our own life. It says, let's go through the process and let's analyze this dark cloud from all sides, like Joni Mitchell's famous song, let's analyze the cloud from all sides and see what we can learn, see if we can understand why are we feeling like this, and see if we can develop better options, better responses to make our situation better, regardless of whether what happened to us was positive or negative.
To me, it feels like, and I don't know if this is a real thing because I'm kind of putting these two words together for the first time, but for me, it feels like personal objectivity.
That's a great way of describing it. And it's hard. It's actually hard to question your own assumptions or beliefs. You have to do it very deliberately through the right questions.
Purposefully. That's right. You have to set the intention, and this app helps you to send the intention.
Right.
Not just
so what
talk
we do is in step 2, you say, okay, step 1, now we've confirmed we have a really important problem that we want to solve. The mistake is don't keep on procrastinating. Actually take the time and sit down and try to understand it better. So step 2 says, okay, what's your options? So you're overweight. Right, you're unhappy in your relationship. What's your options? And it always revolves around change or not change.
Right.
Change something about your life. Get another job, get another person to be in a relationship with, start following that diet, take some action versus not. And what the app then does, it says, okay, the reason why you might procrastinate is because in your mind, there's some positive of the status quo that you don't want to let go, or there's some negative of the change that you don't want to live with. And we have a little storyline in the app that's useful to understand all these aspects. If you worry that you might overreact, it might be that you've exaggerated some positive related to the change or exaggerated the negative of not changing. And we have this little storyline that we use. So just for the listeners or viewers, imagine you standing at the base of the mountain to get the dream outcome that you want, right? You have to climb this mountain. That represents the change that we have to make. If you try to understand what are the reasons for the change, well, there's two reasons in the storyline, like in real life. There's the pot of gold on the top of the mountain. That's a unique benefit I think I can only get if I make that change, if I get a new job or if I get a new relationship or if I go on a diet. That's my dream outcome, the pot of gold, right? Yes. If I've exaggerated that pot of gold, I might end up making a change that's really bad. The other reason for making a change is there's a big, nasty alligator at the base of the mountain that's going to eat us alive. That represents all the negatives in our current life. Those are the two good reasons for making a change. A big pot of gold if I climb the mountain and I get to the top and I get away from this bloody alligator. But there's also two reasons for not making the change. The first one is, what if I start climbing the mountain and I end up falling and breaking my leg or even my neck? And that's represented in our storyline by crutches, right? Mm-hmm. So all the effort and the risk of climbing the mountain is the negative of the change that I'm trying to protect myself against. So when you're trying to understand why you've procrastinated on making a change, one of the good reasons is in your mind you have an assumption that this change will require a lot of effort or risk, and you don't want to do that. So that's the crutches, the downside of the change. But there's another element, and that's to me the most interesting element. What is the positive of not making the change? And that in our storyline is represented by a kind of a mermaid at the base of the mountain that we've become friends with. We don't want to leave them behind. They represent the comforts that we have, the positive of the status quo. And that can include the positive of a bad habit like smoking. Why don't people quit smoking? It's not.
I want to gain weight.
Right. It's not that they don't see the pot of gold, right? That their life will be so much better. They can start tasting food again. It will be more social. And it's not because they don't see the alligator, that if they keep on smoking, there's a good chance of being diagnosed with cancer. Right. The reason why they don't stop is because of the fear of the crutches, all the effort and risk of actually making the change. What if it doesn't work? What if it fails? What if I replace it with overeating? Or the biggest one is that for some reason, they believe that they will have to give up on something positive, that mermaid. And in the case of somebody that smokes, they might say, look, I've got a stressful life. Smoking helps me to cope with stress. So all that the app does is it asks you this question. It says, so what is the unique positive and negative of the change that you're thinking about? What's the unique positive and negative?
But.
Yes.
It still, in my opinion, boils down to self-honesty.
Yes.
Because if we exaggerate, distort, start attempting to bend our own truths, which we cannot, because once you try to change it, it's not the truth, it's a version, right? But what I love about this, there's no one to impress. No one's looking over your shoulder. No one's watching or seeing what you put in, how you answer. So for people, because it took me decades, Alan, to truly learn the power of self-honesty, how to be honest with myself. In my masterclass, I say in there, boy, one of the things that really helped turn my life around was I learned how, when I was at my best, to run ahead in life. And if I was reading a book and something in there resonated with me, empowered me, I marked it. I wrote it down and stuck it somewhere so that when I could not show up for myself, when I am not this person, I have something to reach for, to stumble into that will help me get back on track as quickly as possible. And that's what I think this app can be, because it's right there at your disposal. You always have your phone with you.
And people think, unfortunately, they think that their mind helps them. But unfortunately, the way that we make decisions is we decide and then we rationalize. We don't rationalize and then we decide. We don't look at things objectively and then we decide. We get our emotions.
Well, that's the power of the dark cloud.
Right?
The power of the dark cloud is for you to be duped.
Absolutely. So now what happens is we then start looking for evidence to justify our decision, right? We decide to get a divorce or quit our job.
Discount
And now
rate.
all that the mind does is it's looking for evidence, it's looking for the pot of gold and the alligator and says, oh, it's a great decision. All that the app does is says, wait a minute, the reason why this dark cloud is hanging over you is because there's another option that you, which is not to change. And the app in step 3 then helps you to develop better options. It says, look, why is stop smoking not a viable option for you, right? It's because it in your mind, your assumption is that if I stop smoking, I have to give up a way of coping with stress and I have to live with the risk of gaining weight. So what can I add to the idea of stopping smoking so I don't have to give up a way of coping with stress? Maybe I start meditating and I don't end up being overweight. Maybe I start exercising. That turns an option that was not viable into a viable option by prompting me what can I add rather than what I can give up. And that's simply how the app works.
And
it asks us the right questions. Every time we get the right question, it exposes an assumption that we can
right.
check and change.
But again, back to that self-honesty, because another thing I could see this really helping with, which took me decades again, was understanding the power, the magic behind being able to reinvent blame. Because, that was more than my big thing for today. Well, the only reason I'm like this is because of 22 families in the foster care. The only reason is because, well, if it wasn't for, it's that thing's fault. It's that person's fault. And so I learned how to reinvent blame. So I think that has something to do with it too. But talk about this really quickly. We got a little bit of time. Now, I've seen the testimonials. So CEOs and people in corporate 100 and 500 companies have benefited from this Harmony app, as well as Vanilla Ice.
Right.
So what is it that makes this so accessible, common ground for anyone?
Yeah, I think the idea that you just need to be asked the right question to help you expose that assumption or belief that's limiting you from developing better options, right? If you go back to that equation, it's all about our response. We always have a choice to respond positively or negatively. There's never a benefit of responding negatively. It takes courage to respond positively. And the app just helps us to find better positive responses to it. So whether I'm being bullied at school and I don't know how to respond, right? If you think about the flight, fight, freeze type of response, right? Is what's the best option here for me? We never get trained how to think through things critically, objectively, being brutally honest with ourselves to develop better options. And that's all that the app allows us to do.
Right. Let's take a listen really quickly because I want people to understand, you wouldn't be able to do the things we're about to see if people didn't respect your work. So let's take a listen.
In your brilliant book, Life Strategies, Doing What Works, Doing What Matters, you remind us that life for 5 is that life rewards action, but that we should take the time to make careful decisions and then just pull the trigger. What strategies do you use yourself and can recommend to ensure that on the one side we don't overreact in the moment or that we get stuck with indecision?
Well, did y'all hear the question? The question really boils down to what is reasonable risk-taking and what is being reckless, because that's how I look at it. And, I've studied success since I was 12 years old. It's just become an obsession with mine. I've studied case after case after case of people that turned out to be champions in their lives, whether they're teachers or athletes or whatever. And I found that those people that are successful do take risk. They're willing to step out and put it on the line and take risk, but they're never reckless about it. And what makes the difference is these people identify goals and then they look at the steps necessary to get from where they are to where they want to go. And they make sure that these are reasonable steps that they have to take.
Now, doesn't that describe pretty much what you said this app helps us do for
Yeah.
ourselves?
Absolutely. And Lauren, there's probably the biggest aha moment that I had in my life is when I realized that what determines our success is not our starting conditions, it's our starting assumptions. Right?
Repeat that. Back the
What
car
the-
up, y'all. Pick
yeah.
this one up. Say it again.
What determines our success is not our starting conditions, it's our starting assumptions. And I got that epiphany when something really awful happened to me. I wrote an entrance exam into a school that I really wanted to attend, and I almost failed. And suddenly you start questioning yourself, right? It's like I'm not good enough, etc. And then I read this quote of Henry Ford that said, "Whether you believe you can do something or can't, you're right." And I thought, wow, how can that be? And it's interesting when you look at very successful people, it's very seldom that you find an incredibly successful person that had the perfect starting conditions. You mentioned I have had the incredible opportunity to speak with people like Sir Richard Branson. We were on his island, and I had an opportunity to ask him a question, and I said, it's been well documented that he started off his life with a lot of bad starting conditions, right? He suffered from dyslexia. He sat in school always thinking that he was stupid. I had the same experience. You sit in the back of the class, you don't get things as quickly as other people. You struggle. You start convincing yourself you're just not clever. You're just not stupid. You'll never come up with anything, right?
Right.
But I asked him, I said, Richard, what was the moment in your life when you realized that limiting condition that you had was not going to determine your success? And he said to me, it was, he was reading a book and suddenly became conscious of the fact that somehow the dyslexia wasn't impacting him that much. He was still conscious of it, but he was finding it easier to read and understand. And he realized, holy shit, it was when he was reading something that he was passionate about, those limiting conditions that we all have suddenly doesn't impact us that much. We just keep on going. We have that big dream like what Dr. Phil was talking about. And once you find that dream that you're passionate about, these limiting conditions, just you find ways of overcoming that. And that to me was really, really profound.
So you take the gap.
You close it by taking action, right? Not by lowering your expectation, but by taking the right action. And all that help to do
trimming
the
fat off your
own. What's the best action to take? What's the best response we can make?
Right. And so many of us, like I just said, trim the fat off. We can consider trimming the fat off of our own dreams to make it. We think it's going to make it more accessible, easier, quicker, whatever. And really, it changes the intention of the dream altogether. So you're saying instead of cutting it off up here, just come to the middle ground, that gap, and close it in.
Yeah, I think the other warning that I can give listeners and viewers, and maybe they can associate with it, the other way that we deal with it is if something doesn't work, we immediately try something different, right? We read another book, we go on another training course, and all that does is it raises the potential that we have, but it doesn't change the result. Right? You see businesses make the same mistake, right? They develop a product, it doesn't achieve the sales that they're achieving. Rather than analyzing why the hell are our dream customers not buying this product, right? They go and create another product. And as a result, they might be growing their revenues, but they grow costs at the same rate as what they grow in their revenues, which means that they never improve their profitability. So we keep on jumping to adding new things rather than sitting back and saying, how can we better use what we've got already? Yes, I do have limiting talents, but how can I find something that's really useful to do with what I've already got? We already have enough potential. How can I focus on increasing my results rather than just increasing my potential? Because every time I increase my potential, it increases the gap, right? And that's, I think I was asked recently in an interview, why is it today that despite the fact that we understand so much more about our mental health, that it seems that more people are depressed than ever? And I said, it's very simple, because we are constantly being told you have unlimited potential. Right? Where I grew up, in a very poor environment, my dad said to me, biggest mistake is life is not fair. Don't ever expect it to be. Lower your expectations, right? But now we're being told there's nothing stopping you. Your dreams is only as big as your imagination. You can achieve anything you want, which is simply not true. We all have limiting conditions, right? We all have some limitations. Some people struggle with a reading disability. Some people struggle with being abused, whatever. We all have those things, but we can do much better. That's always it's not that you can achieve anything.
And not at the expense of our dreams.
Right. It's that you can always do better. And I think it's when we keep on telling people that you have unlimited potential and their reality is not close to that, it can actually contribute to their anxiety and depression. We have to be realistic and say, look, I've got limited skills, what can I do with that? Let me find something I'm passionate about, that I can utilize these skills to make a good impact on the world and make a good income.
There you go. You guys, do yourself a favor. Excuse me. Head over on the bottom of the screen right now, scroll, and you'll see harmonyapps.com, where you can go over for yourself and check out, move further into the inner circle of knowingness about this. Be informed. I'm telling you, take a good look. Check this one out. Don't just cursory glance over your shoulder. Go in there and look at it. Check it out from top to bottom to top, side to side, side to side, corner to corner, and corner to corner. It could be that very thing that can change everything in your life. Also, if LinkedIn is your jam, you can find Dr. Alan Barnard over there as well. And if you want to check out Gold Rat Research Labs, there it is. And then finally, here's Dr. Alan's website himself. I'm going to leave that up on the screen. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but I have a feeling we're going to see more from you here. I'm going to get you back again. I'm thinking I might want to do a special. You and Mark had us.
Awesome.
Maybe a couple other people that you guys can bring, just to encourage people in 2022 to just get up, stay up, keep moving forward. And let's change our own narratives, one syllable at a time. Okay. Can I get an amen? Listen, you guys, tomorrow, coming up on Bathrobe Moments, meet me out front at 8 a.m. Tomorrow's our weekly illuminated conversation. That's new for season 7. It means that it's just you and me. We're just going to sit and chop it up, have that illuminated conversation, and pour into each other. Dr. Barnard, thank you so much. I have a feeling a lot of people are going to get in touch with you. Download the app. I plan to, and you're welcome back anytime. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts?
Lauren, thank you so much for the discussion. That the app is also available in all the app stores. So just search for Harmony Decision Maker in your mobile app store, whether you've got an iOS device or Android or even a Kindle Fire. And then also just an invitation, if there are any schools out there, universities, companies that want to make this available inside of the organization. We do a lot of pro bono work. We'll provide them with all the materials for free. They can use the app for free.
Wow.
Just reach out and contact us. We want to try and get this into the hands of as many people as possible.
Being of service. Love it. Not everything has a price tag connected to it. Listen, the most valuable thing that you can offer the world, it doesn't come with a routing number nor a credit card number. It comes with your story, your testimonial. Your proof that things have gotten better. So get up every day. And remember, the moment your eyes open, you're already great. Find one E and one R somewhere on your journey that day and take great to greater, bright to brighter, smart to smarter, and bold to bolder. I'm Lauren Michaels Harris, and I want to thank you for joining me here for today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'll see you tomorrow. Get out there and be blessed and be the blessing. Thank you again, Alan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it? Show me side.